After returning from the United States, Daniel found himself in a position he had once only dreamed of. Crowds were cheering for him, social media was filled with his clips, and companies were offering him large sums to speak at their events. But Daniel knew something most people forget: success can be more dangerous than failure. Failure humbles you, but success can blind you. So instead of drowning in fame, Daniel chose discipline. He built a strict routine, waking up before sunrise, exercising to keep his recovering body strong, reading for hours, and writing his thoughts daily. While many speakers chased glamour, Daniel chased depth. He wanted his words to be more than inspiration. He wanted them to be transformation. One day, during a conference in Manchester, a businessman asked him, "Daniel, what's the secret to your success?" Daniel smiled and replied, "The secret is there is no secret. It's pain, persistence, and patience." That line went viral, not because it was fancy, but because it was raw truth. Yet, behind the scenes, Daniel was fighting silent battles. His health after the accident was still fragile. Long travels exhausted him. At times, he wondered if his body could keep up with his mission. But every time doubt crept in, he remembered the little boy who once stood in torn shoes, speaking about hope in a small classroom. That memory reminded him why he started. Daniel also decided to give back. He founded a small foundation for underprivileged children in the UK, providing books, mentorship, and scholarships. He often said, "I don't want to be remembered as the man who spoke. I want to be remembered as the man who lifted others." Many kids who once had no hope now write to him saying, "Because of you, I believe in myself." Those letters became his real trophies. But the world, as always, continued to test him. During one international event, Daniel froze on a stage for the first time in years. Thousands of eyes stared at him, and his mind went blank. For 30 seconds, he stood silent, sweat dripping, heart pounding. Critics later mocked him, saying, "Maybe he's losing his edge." That night, alone in his hotel room, Daniel questioned himself again. Am I truly built for this, or am I just pretending? But then he remembered the young man who once told him his words saved his life. He remembered his mother's smile after he sent his first paycheck. He remembered the nights he spoke to empty rooms. And suddenly he realized this silence on stage was not failure. It was another lesson. The next day, he walked back on stage with even more courage. He opened his speech saying, "Yesterday, I froze. I forgot my words. But I learned something. Even the strongest stumble. What matters is whether you rise the next day." The audience roared with applause. His weakness had turned into his strength again. Over the years, Daniel refined his message. He stopped speaking about success as a destination and began speaking of it as a journey. "There is no final mountain," he said. "Climb one, and another will appear. The point is not the peak, the point is the climb." People connected deeply with that message because they saw their own struggles reflected in his. He also became a mentor to young speakers. Many of them admitted they feared rejection. Daniel told them, "Rejection is not a wall, it's a mirror. It reflects how badly you want it." His mentorship created a new wave of storytellers across the UK and US, spreading hope to thousands more people he could never reach alone. But perhaps Daniel's most powerful moment came when he returned to his childhood town After nearly 2 decades, he walked into the same small school where he had once spoken in front of classmates wearing torn shoes. The headmaster invited him to speak to the new generation of students. As he stood on that familiar stage, he felt tears welling up. He told the children, "I once sat where you sit. I once wore broken shoes. But I stand here now to tell you it doesn't matter where you start. It matters where you decide to go." The children clapped, teachers cried, and Daniel felt his journey had come full circle. Still, Daniel believes his story is not over. He says, "I don't measure my life in years. I measure it in impact. And until my last breath, I will keep giving." The world today celebrates Daniel as one of the most authentic motivational voices. Not because he is perfect, but because he is real. He doesn't hide his failures. He doesn't paint his scars. Instead, he wears them like badges of honor. And that is why people believe him. Daniel's life is living proof that your past does not define your future. Poverty, rejection, failure, even accidents, they are chapters, not conclusions. What defines you is how you respond. Do you break or do you build? Do you surrender or do you stand? His voice continues to echo in halls, schools, and homes across continents, reminding millions. The darkest nights make the brightest mornings. The hardest battles create the strongest warriors, and the toughest roads lead to the most beautiful destinations. There was once a young woman named Amelia, born in a quiet town in northern England. Her childhood was not filled with toys or luxuries, but with silence and survival. Her father worked night shifts, her mother took cleaning jobs, and Amelia often found herself raising her younger siblings while still a child herself. She didn't know the taste of freedom. She only knew responsibility. At school, Amelia was the quiet one, the girl with second-hand uniforms and a tired look in her eyes. Teachers rarely noticed her, and classmates never invited her to play. She often sat alone during breaks, staring out of the window, wondering if life had anything more to offer than endless chores and whispered arguments at home. One day, when she was 13, she faced a moment that would stay with her forever. During a literature class, the teacher asked everyone to write an essay on my dream. While others wrote about cars, holidays, or fame, Amelia simply wrote, "My dream is to live a life where I am not invisible." The teacher read it aloud to the class, and for the first time, Amelia's words made people look at her differently. That was the day she discovered the power of expression. But discovering power and owning it are two different things. Life still tested her every step. At 16, Amelia applied for a scholarship to study further, only to be rejected. The rejection letter said, "We do not see leadership potential." Those words crushed her. She cried that night, not because of the lost opportunity, but because someone else had defined her worth. But instead of breaking, she made a promise to herself. "No one will decide my worth except me." She began working part-time jobs, saving every penny she could. She cleaned tables, stocked shelves, and even worked as a night receptionist. Most people around her said, "This is your life now. Settle for it." But Amelia refused to settle. Late at night after work, she read books, biographies of leaders, stories of explorers, writings of philosophers. Each page whispered to her, "Your story isn't over. Keep going." At 19, she gathered enough courage to apply for a public speaking contest. Standing on stage for the first time, her hands shook, her voice cracked, but she spoke anyway. She told the story of her childhood, of being invisible, of wanting to be seen. When she finished, the room was silent. Then came applause, thunderous applause. She didn't win the contest, but she won something bigger: belief. Yet, the road ahead was still full of storms. Her family did not support her dream. They told her, "Dreams don't pay bills." Friends drifted away, thinking she was chasing illusions. For years, Amelia walked alone, carrying nothing but determination. She recorded videos of herself speaking, uploaded them online, and most got barely 20 views. Sometimes she wondered if she was wasting her time, but she remembered the essay she had written years ago. "My dream is to live a life where I am not invisible." And so she continued. Slowly, cracks of light appeared. A small organization invited her to speak at a youth event. Then a college invited her. Then a company. Each stage made her stronger. She learned to control her trembling hands, to command her voice, to own her presence. Failures still came, missed opportunities, rejections, critics who called her just another motivational speaker. But Amelia had grown used to storms. She no longer feared them. At 25, Amelia faced a life-changing moment. She was invited to a conference in London, one of the biggest she had ever attended. Thousands sat in the audience. She walked on stage, took a deep breath, and began with these words: "I was once invisible. Today, I stand here because I refuse to remain unseen." Her story of resilience, of rising from silence, touched every heart in the room. That speech was recorded, shared online, and within weeks, it reached millions across the UK, the US, and beyond. From that day, Amelia's life transformed. She became a sought-after speaker, traveling across continents. She spoke in schools, prisons, corporate halls, and community centers. Her message was always the same: your voice matters, your story matters, you matter. People listened not because she was polished, but because she was real. But Amelia never allowed success to change her core. She still returned home to her small town, still visited the library where she once read in silence, still supported her siblings in their dreams. She used her earnings to create scholarships for young girls who were told, "You can't." She became the voice for the voiceless, the strength for the broken, the light for those in the dark. Her journey was not about perfection, but persistence. She failed more times than she succeeded. She cried more nights than she celebrated. But through it all, she never stopped moving. She often said, "The world may try to silence you, but you hold the microphone. Speak anyway." And perhaps the most powerful lesson from Amelia's life is this: you don't need a perfect beginning to write a powerful story. You don't need wealth or connections or approval. All you need is courage, the courage to keep going when no one believes in you, the courage to rise after rejection, the courage to say, "I will not remain invisible." Today, Amelia continues to inspire millions, not as a celebrity, not as a star, but as a reminder that ordinary people can create extraordinary impact. She is proof that the quietest voices can echo the loudest if only they refuse to be silenced. So, whenever you feel unseen, unheard, or unwanted, remember Amelia. Remember the girl who was once invisible, but who chose to shine. And let her story remind you that you too can rise, you too can be seen, you too can live a life that leaves echoes long after you're gone. In the heart of Glasgow, Scotland, there was a boy named Oliver. His childhood was a battlefield of poverty, broken promises, and shattered dreams. His father was absent, his mother worked double shifts, and Oliver often wandered the streets searching for scraps of food. While other children laughed in playgrounds, he learned to survive in silence. Oliver's home was a tiny, damp apartment where rainwater leaked through the ceiling, and the sound of arguments often drowned out the silence of hunger. At school, he was known as the boy who never spoke much, the boy who wore the same sweater every day, the boy teachers didn't expect much from. Some called him lazy, some called him hopeless, but no one called him worthy. Yet deep inside, Oliver carried something powerful, a stubborn belief that life could not always remain this cruel. He didn't know when things would change, but he whispered to himself every night, "Someday I'll break free." At 14, Oliver faced his first major defeat. He dreamed of joining a local football team. For weeks, he practiced with an old, half-flat ball, running barefoot on rough ground. Tryout day came, but the coach rejected him within minutes. "You're too weak, too small," the coach said. Those words burned into Oliver's soul. He went home, threw the ball against the wall, and cried until he fell asleep. But by morning, his tears had turned into determination. He realized no one would hand him a chance, he would have to carve it himself. So he began to train himself not just in football but in life. He woke up before dawn, ran through empty streets, studied harder than ever, and worked part-time cleaning shops. He believed that one day his scars would become his strength. At 17, tragedy struck. His mother fell seriously ill, and medical bills drowned them in debt. Oliver quit school temporarily to work full-time in construction. His hands bled from carrying bricks, his back ached from endless lifting, but he refused to complain. At night, while others slept, he read books left behind in dumpsters or borrowed from kind strangers. Those books became his teachers, stories of inventors, leaders, fighters. He discovered the lives of people who had nothing yet created everything. Each story whispered, "If they could, why not you?" But life didn't ease its grip. When Oliver turned 20, his mother passed away. The pain was unbearable. For weeks, he wandered aimlessly, ready to give up on everything. One cold evening, sitting by the river, he thought of ending it all. But as he stared into the dark water, a memory struck him, his mother's tired but hopeful eyes. She once told him, "Promise me you'll never quit, no matter how hard it gets." That memory pulled him back from the edge. He decided then and there, "If I must live, I will live with purpose." Oliver moved to London with nothing but a backpack. The city was ruthless. He slept in shelters, sometimes on benches, and worked odd jobs to survive. Yet he never stopped writing his thoughts in an old notebook. One day, while working as a cleaner in a community hall, he stumbled upon a motivational seminar. Curious, he stood at the back, listening. The speaker spoke about resilience, about turning pain into power. For Oliver, it was like hearing his own heart speak. At that moment, he realized his purpose. He wanted to inspire others just like that. But how? He had no money, no connections, no stage. Still, he began where he was. He recorded himself speaking on his phone and uploaded short clips online. Most got only a handful of views, sometimes none. People mocked him, calling him foolish. But Oliver kept going. Every day, he spoke, recorded, uploaded. Even if one person listens, he said it's worth it. Months later, one of his videos caught the attention of a small community group. They invited him to speak at their event. Standing on stage for the first time, Oliver's hands shook. His knees trembled, but his voice carried years of struggle. He spoke about hunger, rejection, and the promise to never quit. When he finished, the audience rose to their feet, clapping and crying. That day, Oliver realized his pain had finally found its purpose. Still, success didn't come overnight. He faced rejection after rejection. Sometimes halls were empty, sometimes organizers refused to pay him. But he kept showing up, speaking even when only 2 people listened. If I can change 2 lives today, he said, that's 2 more than yesterday. His persistence built his character like steel. Years later, Oliver finally broke through. One of his talks went viral, spreading across the UK and the US. Suddenly he was invited to conferences, schools, even television. People admired him not because he was perfect, but because he was real. He didn't preach theories, he shared wounds. He didn't hide his scars, he showed them proudly, saying, "These are proof that I fought and I survived."